Meet the richest black girl in history. This is Sarah Rector. She became multi-millionaire by the age of 12, but was forcibly declared white because some people couldn't stand to see a young, rich black girl. This is her story.
She lived a life of luxury. She had money coming in, and she did whatever she pleased with it.
I remember the fancy cars she had.
In 1913, an oil driller drilled a well on the property that produced a huge gusher. We're talking 2,500 barrels of oil a day.
And Sarah, overnight,
became the richest girl in America, making more money than the president.
Sarah Rector Campbell, otherwise named as Sarah Rector Crawford, was an African-American born on March 3, 1902. She was a member of Muscogee Creek Nation residing in Taft, Oklahoma, which was considered to be Indian territory at the time. During her early years of life, the Native American community was still reeling from effects of the Civil War, and although they were formally considered free people, they couldn't get access to power or any other affluence. It was the same for Sarah, whose grandparents, Benjamin and Mollie McQueen, were owned by Creek Indians. After they were freed, their former owners owed them tribal reparations and land allotments as compensation. Sarah, too, received 160 acres of land. Yes, 160 acres. You would think if you received 160 acres that you would live the rest of your life stress-free, right? That all your worries are over, that you made it. But in Sarah's case, the complete opposite happened. People of color aren't exactly treated as equals even today, so it's crazy to think that they did so back then. The handing over of lands did take place, but there's always a catch. Those lands already labeled poor for irrigation or farming. Basically, the former powers gave Sarah and her clan a big chunk of useless land, 60 miles away from her home, on which she would have to pay taxes without getting much in return. Like I said, there's always a catch. They will never set us up to be financially free. Her family struggled to sell the land, make it profitable, and even pay taxes on it. It was just another form of punishment that came with being a descendant of black slaves. The useless land turned out to be a blessing in disguise for Sarah, though. Between 1913 and 1914, Sarah's land was dug into by the Standard Oil Company, which discovered heaps of rich oil that smelled like mountains of the greenback. Long story short, Sarah's land turned out to have a huge gusher, which then led to oil wells worth millions in today's world. Sarah became rich by sheer fortune. Her land was a gold mine. Her daily earnings back then were about $300, which would be roughly $7,000 to $8,000 today, averaging around $112,000 a year, or $3 million in today's time. And voila! Sarah jumped from being a struggling taxpayer to becoming the biggest taxpayer in the entire state of Oklahoma. That struck a nerve in some people. They couldn't stand that a young black girl found a way and became rich. So they did the unthinkable and forcibly declared her white. She was whitewashed, both literally and figuratively, to keep people from losing their cool. However, this did not last long. The Chicago Defender, a prime black newspaper with unproblematic headlines, gave it straight to the people. The white people had become so alarmed at this enormous wealth of this young girl that they declared her white. They also revealed how Sarah's estate was being mismanaged and how her rightful wealth might be under risk of an unfair takeover under a government that favored the whites anyway. This daunting headlines caught the attention of Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. They took up the matter with the NAACP, who helped investigate a solid guardianship and property management in Sarah's case. The move also helped cement fair rights for other black people who were yet to make fortune in a white-dominated world. Sarah starts receiving proposals, a good schooling, and media coverage on the daily. She went to the university and became a fierce advocate of civil rights, besides also multiplying her wealth in stocks, mansions, boarding houses, confectionaries, and more land. Sarah also used her wealth to uplift her community and advocate for their rights. Although it was very fortunate to have her land turn out to be a gold mine, she had a deadly combination of wealth, wisdom, and will, which enabled her to use her wealth for increasingly purposeful means.